To paraphrase Oscar Wilde, there are two great tragedies in life. The first is not getting what you want, and the second is getting it. And that is exactly what is happening with Republicans in the Texas legislature right now. As we all know, this week, those Republicans were finally able to fulfill their fevered dreams of drawing mid-decade gerrymandered maps to basically erase Democrats from existence. And they did it. And based on these new maps, Republicans should be able to pick up 5 new seats in the U.S. House of Representatives. They got exactly what they wanted. And then, immediately after they pass these and everything's approved and we're good to go, these are officially the new districts, many Republicans in the state legislature had an oopsie-doo moment where they looked at the maps again and realized, oh God, we just screwed up so badly. Because here's what happened. Yes, Republicans will get those 5 new districts. They were able to draw those lines so squiggly and curvy that they guaranteed themselves those 5 districts. But you also have to remember, in order to draw new districts, you can't create new land. You have to take from other areas. And in doing so, what these Republicans in Texas may have done, and this is what they're worried about, by creating 5 safe districts, they put 10 districts in play. So, based on their own stupidity, their own greed, their own haste to steal 5 seats, they may have lost 10. Now, here's what happened. Let me make this perfectly clear. This is not a guarantee that Democrats could end up picking up 10 seats because the 10 districts where they kind of took people from are still light red. They're not dark red like the new 5 districts. Those are safe Republican. You got decades before you got to worry. But the light red ones include more Democrats than the others. They include more independent voters than the other districts, but still have, a Republican lean to them. But a Republican lean, as we have seen in election after election after election, sometimes doesn't mean anything at all, especially when you have a political party like the GOP that's not doing so well right now in polling. Their policies are polling very poorly. In fact, it was confirmed this week, what I've been saying for months, by the way, the One Big Beautiful Bill is officially the least popular piece of legislation since at least the year 1990. So 35 years, this is the most unpopular piece of legislation. Even Republican voters are struggling to support it. So you've pissed off Republicans with your horrific legislation. Donald Trump's approval rating continues to fall, including among Republican voters. He is now at the lowest point he has ever been through either his first or second term with Republican voters. So here's the problem these Texas Republicans face with these new 10 swing districts they've created. Republicans may not show up next year.
Texas Republicans are committing a Class 3 felony by having Nicole Collier locked up in the Capitol since Monday. Meanwhile, Ghislaine Maxwell is in a minimum security camp-fed type of facility where she's had running water, she's had showers every day since Monday, she's had cable television and, got to be able to go freely around the whole place, as well as have phone time, as well as contact with her family. Meanwhile, Nicole Collier, who's a state representative, who is a law-abiding citizen, has had her rights stripped from her. So where in the world do we live that Ghislaine Maxwell has more rights than Nicole Collier, and yet everybody thinks it's okay? Why isn't Abbott being held on charges of unlawful imprisonment? Why isn't this Sergeant at Arms being held accountable for the fact that he's locked an individual up who has not been found guilty of anything? Meanwhile, you guys converted a sentence and allowed a trafficker to roam freely in Camp Fed in Texas. But meanwhile, Nicole Collier is locked up and bound and unable to actually even use the phone, and has been threatened to actually have her phone and her be charged with a felony for speaking to people on the phone. How is this justice, and how do you accept it?
It's time to speak up. So Texas just passed new voting maps, and here's the problem. They split up Black and Latino communities so their votes count for less. This trick is called gerrymandering. Instead of voters choosing their leaders, politicians draw weird lines that let them choose their voters. Even though people of color make up most of Texas's growth, these new maps pack them into a few districts or scatter them across many so that white, Republican areas keep their power. That means fewer seats where minority voters can actually elect someone who represents them. Bottom line, gerrymandering doesn't take away your vote, but it does make it weaker. And in Texas, that means silencing communities of color to protect those already in power. Go love your neighbor.
So this has the potential to be not only the FAFO of the year, but the FAFO of the century. It seems that less than 24 hours after Republicans passed these gerrymandered maps and this redistricting bullshit, they're having a little bit of regret, apparently. You see, when you redraw maps, you're not creating land. You can't create land. So you have to take from other districts. And in an attempt to take these 5 seats, they may have inadvertently put 10 other seats into play for 2026. And evidently, Republicans are having a little bit of buyer's remorse. Appears that they can't even gerrymander properly. So this is going to get very interesting. And man, wouldn't that be poetic justice if they ended up having more competitive races in some of those other districts? That would be poetic justice, especially with the gerrymandering that's going on in California and the gerrymandering that's going to be happening in New York. They might have just shot themselves in the foot.
Well, after holding a Democrat hostage in the Texas House, Greg Abbott got what he wanted today with the Texas House passing the new gerrymandered as F congressional map. It was a vote 88 to 56. Of course, we knew it was going to be a landslide. Texas is very Republican controlled. There's no shock at all that Trump's little puppet Abbott passed or got this passed into the Texas Congress. Look, it's going to be interesting. It's going to be really interesting when we see these Democrat states start pushing back and gerrymandering the crap out of their districts also, because California has already said that they're going to do it. New York has said that they're going to do it. And if you don't think we're in a cold civil war, you are heavily mistaken, because we have been in a cold civil war for months now. And I'm not to be surprised when we start seeing escalation. I mean, the Marine Corps is being tasked out to help ICE. Yeah, if you didn't know about that, that is a nice little thing that they're testing out with certain bases. I think Camp Pendleton, Cherry Point, they're going to have ICE on the Marine Corps bases. And at this point, I don't know what the point is. I really don't.
So we went from don't tread on me to the Constitution is the most sacred document in this country to nothing means more to me as an American patriot than democracy. So now we just kidnapping elected officials and holding them hostage unless they sign off on a piece of paper that literally lets them steal democracy? That shit didn't even take a year. Look, to the Democrats that folded and went back to Texas, I got no words for you that won't get me banned on this app. But to Nicole Collier and Democrats like her, thank you. This is what standing 10 toes down looks like. This is what standing on business looks like. This is what we voted for. Fighters. Because extreme times require extreme measures. This is what she's doing. She's been in the chamber now, what, 18 hours probably by this time? They won't let her leave unless she consents to having a police escort when she leaves. Now, they're not trying to give her a police escort because they care about her safety in them Texas streets. They trying to give her a police escort because they want to make sure that that grown-ass woman doesn't leave the state, because they need her so they can keep redistricting and stealing seats. Now, why would you have to steal seats if you earning them legitimately? Why would you have to steal seats if you are doing what the people who put you in those seats asked you to do? Unless you're not doing what those people asked you to do. It's crazy they got this kind of power to hold a human being hostage, but not to protect your health care. they voted to take it away. They got this kind of power to hold somebody hostage, but not to make sure your kids stay safe in school. Matter of fact, they made it less safe for your kids in school. They got this kind of power to make sure a human being doesn't leave. But they're not using that power to make sure human beings have more affordable living and groceries. Matter of fact, they voted to make everything more expensive. When the fuck are y'all gonna wake up and realize these people ain't on your side? They're only on one person's side. That's the orange dude. And that dude is only on the side of a guy from a whole other country who he literally rolled the red carpet out for. I got no words for the people who folded on this. But to the people that want to help Nicole and people like her, call 512-463-1000. 512-463. I'm sorry, let me do that one more time. 512-463-1000. Call them. Let them know that you want her out. If she isn't out by the time y'all see this video. Extreme times call it for extreme measures. So, I salute you, Nicole.
Here's what's happening in Texas right now and why it should scare you. Nicole Collier, a Democratic lawmaker, is literally locked inside the Texas Capitol. Why? Because Republicans made a new rule. If Democrats want to leave the chamber, they have to sign a form letting armed state police follow them everywhere. This isn't about safety, it's about control. Here's the trick. If Democrats walk out, Republicans don't have enough people legally to hold a vote. It's called quorum. So Republicans are using cops to stop Democrats from leaving, forcing them to stay and give Republicans the numbers they need. Nicole said, "I won't sign away my dignity." And because she refused, she's trapped inside. This is elected officials using police to imprison other elected officials so they can force through laws. That's not democracy. That's authoritarianism. If this can happen to lawmakers, what do you think it means for the rest of us? Pay attention. Share this.
Well, it would seem that our maps here in Texas will be redrawn as they pass their little gerrymandering vote today. The good thing is that Representative Nicole Collier will get to go home, has gone home. I saw her speech as she was leaving. And I hope she sues the crap out of them and wins. I know she's suing them. But this is crazy because Texas always pops red, right? But looking at the numbers, we have over 8 million Democratic voters in the state of Texas. And guess what? We have just over 6 million Republican voters in the state of Texas. So what does that tell you? You know where I'm going to laugh. They did all of this. And then everybody shows up and votes blue anyway. That's what I'm going to dream about tonight. Good night, y'all.
Here's what's happening in Texas right now and why it should scare you. Nicole Collier, a Democratic lawmaker, is literally locked inside the Texas Capitol. Why? Because Republicans made a new rule. If Democrats want to leave the chamber, they have to sign a form letting armed state police follow them everywhere. This isn't about safety, it's about control. Here's the trick. If Democrats walk out, Republicans don't have enough people legally to hold a vote. It's called quorum. So Republicans are using cops to stop Democrats from leaving, forcing them to stay and give Republicans the numbers they need. Nicole said, "I won't sign away my dignity." And because she refused, she's trapped inside. This is elected officials using police to imprison other elected officials so they can force through laws. That's not democracy. That's authoritarianism. If this can happen to lawmakers, what do you think it means for the rest of us? Pay attention. Share this.
Hey friends, State Representative Cristina Morales here, and I wanted to give you an update on what's happening right now with the Texas redistricting. So yesterday, the Texas House passed the new congressional redistricting maps, and today they've moved over to the Senate for approval. These maps are designed to silence communities of color through racial gerrymandering, and we're not going to stand by and let that happen. Meanwhile, in California, Governor Gavin Newsom just signed his redistricting bill, but here's the difference. He gave his constituents a direct say by putting it to a vote of the people. That's transparency, that's democracy. Here in Texas, Republicans are ramming through the maps behind closed doors. Democrats will be filing a lawsuit to challenge these maps in court because the clock is ticking. We cannot allow these discriminatory maps to lock voters out of fair representation in the 2026 midterm. And here's a side note that should outrage every Texan. One of the MAGA Republicans has already filed to run in one of these stolen districts, District 9, before the ink on the maps is even dry. That tells you everything you need to know about how rigged this process really is. And it's not just Texas. Other Republican-controlled states are already starting their own redistricting efforts, all aimed at cementing power instead of giving people a voice. So let me be clear. This fight is about democracy itself. We're going to stand up, speak out, and do everything in our power to make sure every Texan's vote counts and every community has a voice.